Everybody. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Sex in the Bull City. I am Dr. Sophia Dorton-Caudle. Yes, I'm going to start using my maiden name again. I'm excited about that. And but still will be Caudle professionally. So however you know me is going to work fine. I'm also excited to be here with my friend and colleague, former intern, and soon to be newest associate. You have a lot of titles, Celynd. Celynd,
That's true.
yeah, a lot of importance here. Yeah, Celynd Malone, and I'm so excited to be here. We're going to be talking about just some, kind of a look back at the effects in our world, in our profession, and also what we've seen in our practice, and a little bit of personal information as well of the effects of isolation and COVID. And so we're just going to kind of do a look back at that and just have an easy relaxed conversation around that. But before we get started, I did want to have Celynd just share a little bit more about yourself and anything that you want anyone listening to know more about you.
Okay. So, as Dr. Sophia said, I am a soon to be associate at the practice. I did my practicum and internship through North Carolina Central, and I'm graduating this week. Um, I
Actually, we
am,
do this for Eagles. Yeah.
oh, okay. Good to know. Um, and have my master's in clinical mental health counseling. I am working on my licensure paperwork so that I can return to the practice in just a few short months. I am super excited to be coming back. I am EMDR trained. I'm halfway through my CSAT training. I have let's see. I just started yesterday my PhD in clinical sexology. So I am really excited to be at Bull City Psychotherapy.
Yeah, I am super excited that you're here. You are a perfect fit. And also, I've just been incredibly impressed with your work up to this point. And I've said this to several people that your work, you are a better therapist already than many seasoned therapists that I have consulted with over the years. And not saying anything negative about anyone else, but you just have a real natural ability at this particular work and connecting with other people around it and helping people feel comfortable and safe, talking about things that are sometimes really uncomfortable and shameful. Sexuality is difficult for most of us to deal with and talk about, and most of us feel a lot of insecurities around our sexuality. So I just am happy to know you and happy that you're here, happy we get to work together, grow together, become good friends together. And yeah, yay, Celynd. So I'm glad you're here. Yeah, so I just wanted to do sort of a look back at the effects that COVID has really had on all of us, really around the world. This is a universal issue that we've all experienced. I'll just, kind of add my 2 cents and then we can just kind of flow from there. But I did write an article at the beginning of COVID called Grief and the COVID Pandemic. And it was really a look at neuroscience around how not having meaningful connection, how that affects our brain function, that we experience more fear, anxiety, depression, loneliness, and yes, the foundational feeling state of grief, which is an area that I specialize in, original grief, which is really that foundational feeling state from attachment wounding. Grief covers all of that. And so I was really seeing that and everyone I was talking to, people that I see every week in the rooms. I do a free meeting there. And it was just a very common occurrence. I was experiencing it myself, recently separated. And, I'm super grateful to the pandemic because that was where I developed my grief model and it helped me immensely. And now it's really turned into an intensive that I do with people. And I'm just, it was a COVID blessing for me and for many others. But for a lot of people whose brain was already trained to isolate, when we were put in more isolation because of, needing to be physically healthy, um, that was really just destructive for a lot of people who didn't know or didn't have the community to kind of move through that. And there's lots of reasons for that. We can talk about some of them if we have time. It's not anybody's fault, but there was a lot of suffering that happened. And, we have seen like a real uptick in certainly pornography addiction,
For sure.
and yeah, and sex addiction in general. But I as a clinician feel like porn addiction took on a whole new level, because I mean, there's nothing easier to do, honestly, if you're alone and lonely and bored. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of do a look back and really have a gentle conversation, helping people understand that, when we are isolated, when we are alone too much and not feeling connection, that there's going to be consequences to that. And if we can just understand it better, we can help build whatever connection feels good and safe to us. It's kind of like a prevention in a way, to really understand about what our brain actually needs to feel whole. So yeah, I just wanted to have just a nice little conversation around this and just sort of see what your thoughts are, Celynd.
So in my short time practicing, I have definitely seen the connection between isolation that we experienced during COVID and uh, addiction as a whole. I think the more isolated somebody is, the more distorted thinking doesn't get checked against other people. And I saw a lot of people in my time that just didn't know how to connect, and it just got amplified by the pandemic.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. So if people were already in sort of a bad way prior
Mhm.
to the pandemic, wow, that became even worse. That's 100% true. Um, I would say that really for all of us, when we travel through that very difficult time, if we stick with it and keep doing our own personal work, that will eventually take us through to the growth and the joy. And so I think that definitely happened for a lot of people. During COVID, I know I had a lot of friends and also clients and myself who, we embarked on that difficult journey, and now it's like a completely different life that is so much better. So, I think that it's so true for people who either didn't know what to do or didn't know that there was a problem, or for people who were blaming themselves. It certainly made their life circumstances, a lot worse, and they felt a lot worse. And that's a real shame.
Mhm. I think we live in a society that is fairly isolated to begin with,
Mm.
in that we spend a lot of time on our phones. We have more options than we've ever had for how we engage in talking to other people, or and how we disengage from talking to other people. And I think the addiction part, um, again, more options, and that kind of alone time, um, it spirals with shame. That's what I have seen in clients, is that, like, I don't deserve to be around people, um, and connect with people because of my behaviors. So I'm going to isolate. and then I isolate, and then from there I, I do more of the behavior. And so this kind of ongoing, can't get out of it cycle happens. And I think the pandemic just made that so much bigger. Um, whereas people before could at least get out of it by going to work. They could be a person that they were proud of at work or in their social sphere. And then that shame that comes with that isolation, uh, it just there was nowhere for it to go.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. You just gave like a pretty good demonstration of, of the defectiveness schema. It's just like a real cycle, for sure, that builds on itself and gets bigger. And that just reminds me, how that's all created. Again, in adulthood, we're just repeating patterns of what we were taught when we were little. No one decided one day, hey, I'm going to wake up and be an addict today, or I'm going to wake up and feel shameful today. I mean, no, these are all things that we were taught, um,
Mhm.
accidentally. Like, our caregivers didn't mean to give this to us, but this is what certain types of lack of connection and parenting do. We all have experienced some of it, some of us just more severely. But when you were just talking, it really reminded me of what our brain is capable of doing between the ages of, like, well, before the ages of 13 and younger. Our brain is really only capable of blaming ourselves. Oh, I feel sick today. Well, it must be because I'm a bad girl, or my parents are fighting. It must be because I didn't do well on my test. Everything's about me and it's my fault. And so when we really get a lot of that messaging when we're younger, I mean, it's no surprise how that is going to turn into shame and blame of the self, and a pretty big defectiveness schema, which, if we're more isolated, like a lot of us were, we needed to be, to be healthy, during COVID, that's just going to grow, like you're saying. So yeah, definitely some negative effects, emotionally, from that pandemic isolation that was necessary physically. Some of the other things I just wanted to mention that I've seen, you mentioned addiction. Yes, I also, really noticed, professionally and personally, the rise in separation and divorce rates. So this was another consequence of people being isolated at home, and certain couples kind of looking to each other and saying, huh, is this what we need to be doing? Is this what I want? And so in that regard, you could look at that and say that's a bad thing. And maybe for some people it is, but it's also a representation of, when we're so busy out working and out running around driving and like filling our life with distractions all the time, we're not really paying attention to our home life necessarily, and really seeing, hey, does this coupleship work for me anymore? Does it work for you? Does it work for us? And I'm grateful to have been part of a coupleship that I was able to process through that during COVID. And I'm just super grateful, is the word, to be out of a relationship that was not working. So that's another consequence. Good for some people, not good for other people. But that rise in separation and divorce, that isolation really, it either pushed people closer together, or it helped people kind of, hopefully consciously uncouple. But I don't know that a lot of people do that yet, but that's a great way to separate and divorce. And so, I'm again grateful to have been able to do that this second time around. So yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts around that.
I think this comes back to what I was saying about amplification.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, whatever was your relationship, it got bigger. And so if you'd been ignoring some early warning signs in your relationship, or you'd been not really paying attention because busyness usually, and now you have no choice. you're stuck together. And I remember, the pods people would form. These are the only people you see. Um, it can make some things, good things, better. I'm in a very happy, amazing relationship myself, and we love being together. This was a great time for us. Um, I was teaching high school at the time, and so I was doing all the online teaching, and so I was home all day long, and my husband worked from home already, and so we just spent all of our time together, and he thought it was the best thing ever. uh, and I had a great time being with him, but I realized that we're outliers in that. We are not the norm. I think most people uh, found that there was something going on, and there was something that they needed to either get it together and address together, or they needed to uncouple, as you said.
Yeah, that's funny the way you said it. There was something going on, that was kind of easy to ignore, like you said. When we're busy and distracted all the time, we don't really have to pay attention.
Exactly.
Not a great, not great. And so, you are an outlier, and we've talked about your relationship, which we're going to talk more about in subsequent podcasts, which I think will be great. And our relationship experience is both of ours is gonna, I think, make for really good conversation. Um, you know, I think that, I think it's so good that that you are not the norm, and that there was a lot of alcoholism that increased also with people being at home. Yeah. And so, a lot of not good things going on, or things happening to make people hopefully make some changes personally or in their relationship, whatever. And just some other things that I've seen and heard about is, also just on the friendship level, people really probably questioning is a good word. Questioning, are these the people I really want to be around? Like when you're making your pods, I've got these, 25 friends, which obviously is a lot. That's a big number. I decide to make it a big number to make the point. I mean, you can't put 25 people in your pod. Your pod's like, 5 people, or, whatever, some smaller number. So really being choosy about, who are my friends, who are my girlfriends that I really want to be able to connect with in person live, and really making some choices around that. And I remember a lot of people, when we were able to kind of get back out, um, really thinking about who they wanted to spend their time with and how they wanted to spend their time. Do I want to be involving my kids in all of these extracurriculars, or do I want to, keep some family connection going on? So again, it kind of gets to like choices based on, you know, um, emotional connection, relationship connection, which I really see as a positive. And I think relationships should be intentional. And
Yeah.
we shouldn't just like fly through them and like, oh, whatever happens, happens. That's probably not going to work that well when things do happen. So yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts around that.
We use mindfulness as kind of this buzzword in mental health circles these days. Like everybody wants to be more mindful, everybody wants to pay attention, and we don't. We can sit for 5 or 10 minutes and pay attention to the world around us and the physical sensations, and that's mindfulness. But I think that real mindfulness is what happened during the pandemic. We had to pay attention.
Yeah.
We had to look at our lives, do some examination, because we were out of options. We couldn't just medicate it away with alcohol. We couldn't just ignore it with more Netflix. We couldn't uh, just keep going, like push at work. And we had to kind of step back and be mindful of the people that we were involving ourselves with, and assess what we find important. And I think that if you're paying attention, if you're doing that, it's helpful. It's healthy to be thinking about who you want in your life. I tend not to think of things in terms of good or bad, but it healthy or unhealthy. And that's a very healthy way to respond to this amplifying event, this big thing that happened to all of us, this kind of almost like a trauma, right? That we all endured together as a world, um, that we are just starting to kind of recover from.
Mhm. Yeah, I think all of that makes a lot of sense, and I totally agree with you. Yeah, I think that isolation, prolonged isolation, definitely on the brain, I would imagine would be felt as trauma. It was prolonged for a lot of people, and um, but again, I see that I'm just really seeing a lot of this as a way to shift into a time of a COVID blessing and being able to be more intentional and mindful. And, I just want to also say to anyone out there who doesn't feel like they know how or didn't feel like they had the support then, that finding a good counselor is an option for you. Looking on Psychology Today is a great way to do that. Just searching in your area, searching your insurance type or what need you have. Maybe it's depression or it could be grief processing. I know that for us here at Bull City Psychotherapy, and I also just want to put a plug in for our new office in Charlotte. And so I'm super excited about that, very stoked. But what we specialize in is intimacy and connection and relationships. So if you're needing help with, how do I deepen the connection with myself, we can help you with that. If you want to understand how can I deepen the connection with my family, my friends, my partner, we can help you with that. If there are concerns that you have, like I might have some of these issues that are maybe addictions or maybe just unhelpful behaviors or thought patterns that keep me distanced from other people, we can also help you with that. So I just really hope that, if you need help, that you reach out and find help. If it's us, that's great. If it's someone else, that's great too. The main thing is just being able to take a really important, brave step to find someone to walk alongside you during a time of challenge, and that's really important. Is to for us to not be alone during our time of challenge. So yeah, I'm glad that we had this conversation. Just kind of a look back at what was happening, what was really going on to us all emotionally during COVID, and hopefully a lot of us have found our way out and we're for the better. But I know that that's not true for everyone. And it never will be. I mean, we all have hard times in life. And so just because we know what to do, even we're still gonna have a hard time. So we are here as a resource for people. And thank you, Celynd, for chatting with me this morning. And
Thank you.
yeah, this is awesome. And so we will have more podcasts coming to you more regularly starting now. So this is a commitment that I have made, especially going into 2024, which is great. And so happy that Celynd will be back here soon, and we're going to really be doing some cool podcasts. So thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks for being part of our lives here at Bull City. And if you have any topics that you'd like us to speak on and prepare for, please email me at Sophia at Bull City Psychotherapy or Celynd at Bull City Psychotherapy. And we will be happy to do just that. So thanks again for another episode of Sex in the Bull City. And until next time, be well and be safe. Take care. Bye.